Yu Xiaogang. There are no useless martial souls, only useless people. Yu Chen. You're right. Subsequently, the 9 major blood-red soul rings appeared on the same martial soul as Yu Xiaogang. Suddenly, Yu Xiaojiang's face turned pale and he couldn't believe it. His figure was on the verge of collapse, and he said, "Wasn't that me?" Erlong Mei, Donger, tell me, this is not true. Lu Erlong, Bibi Dong said, don't come to me in the future, I'm afraid Yu Chen will misunderstand. Yu Chen travels through the Douluo continent and becomes a collateral member of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex family, awakening Xiaogang with the same martial soul Luo Sanpao. Although there are no cheats, I will gradually evolve my martial soul through my own efforts. Luo Sanpao. Flame Yelong. Holy Golden Dragon. Elemental Holy Dragon. Dragon King. Dragon God. Creation Yinglong. Keep an eye on Yu Xiaogang. This is how martial soul / Lu Erlong / Bibi Dong uses it. Keywords of the novel. Douluo. From Luo Sanpao to Chuangshi Yinglong without a pop-up window. Douluo. From Luo Sanpao to Chuangshi Yinglong. Download the complete text. Douluo. From Luo Sanpao to Chuangshi Yinglong. Latest chapter reading. Chapter 1. Martial Soul Awakening. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 1 Martial Soul Awakening, Harem, all in, please leave if you don't like it, and please do not spray. The introduction cannot clearly indicate the harem, it can only be explained here. Rising momentum, wild horses split their manes, white cranes spread their wings, leopards and tigers return to the mountains, slanting their tails to catch sparrows turning around, swinging a lotus, bending a bow and shooting a tiger, unloading steps and moving obstacles, as if sealed off Douluo continent, Jiando Empire. Blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex family territory. At the beginning of the sun's rise, in a small courtyard located on the outskirts of the tribe, a boy of about 5 or 6 years old was practicing Tai Chi. After being sealed off, it becomes a cross hand. Subsequently, supporting oneself before breaking up, lowering both arms, and retracting one's feet to restore momentum is called closing the situation. After completing the entire set of Tai Chi, Yu Chen slowly exhaled a long breath in the morning glow. At this moment, a loud bell rang from the center of the tribe. Dong 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 dong, Yu Chen's expression became solemn. The martial soul awakening ceremony is about to begin. Douluo continent has no magic, no fighting spirit, no martial arts, but everyone has something called martial soul. It is customary for people to awaken their martial souls through specific rituals at the age of 6. If, at the same time as the awakening of the martial soul power is detected, one can practice and become a soul master. Soul master is the most noble profession in the world. Everyone yearns to become a soul master, and Yu Chen is no exception. Only by becoming a powerful soul master can one not be slaughtered in this world of the jungle. I don't know what my martial soul will be. On the way to the center of the tribe, Yu Chen thought with some concern. Martial souls have heritability. Generally speaking, a person's martial soul is often the same as the stronger one between their parents. Yu Chen lost his parents at a young age, but learned from his elders that his father's martial soul was blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex, while his mother's martial soul was bright falcon. The former is much stronger than the latter. So, theoretically speaking, Yu Chen should not worry about the awakening of his martial soul. As long as there are no accidents, his martial soul must be blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex. This is recognized as one of the top beast martial souls in the Pan-continent, and even in the eyes of a considerable number of people, one can be removed. But if nothing unexpected happens, there will definitely be an accident. From Tai Chi, it can be seen that Yu Chen is a traveler. More precisely, he is a reincarnation who has just awakened memories of his past life. 20 days ago, January 11, 2631 in the Douluo calendar, was Yu Chen's 6th birthday. It was on this day that he suddenly awakened the memories of his previous life. After the fusion of memories from past and present lives, he immediately realized that he had traveled into the world of an online novel called Douluo Continent, that he had read in his previous life. Anyone who has watched this work knows the importance of martial soul and soul power. As the protagonist of the novel, Tang San is a traveler from the low martial world. Not only does it have a rare twin martial soul in 100 years, but it also has innate full soul power, which can be said to be full of talent. Of course, his innate full soul power was obtained through the cultivation of the external skill, Xiaogang. After awakening her past life memories, Yu Chen naturally searched for whether she had any cheats. Unfortunately, until now, he has not discovered the existence of cheats. Then we can only rely on ourselves. As one of the top forces in Douluo Continent, the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family holds a martial soul awakening ceremony on the first day of each month for children who have celebrated their 6th birthday. Some people have birthdays at the end of the month, so they only need to wait a few days to awaken their martial souls. People whose birthdays are at the beginning of the month have to wait for more than half a month. Yu Chen's birthday is January 11th, and he won't be able to awaken his martial soul until the 1st of next month. During the 20 days between memory awakening and martial soul awakening, Yu Chen has been trying to enhance his innate soul power. The higher the innate soul power, the higher the talent. He cannot determine the martial soul, but from Tang San's situation, he can know the innate soul power. More precisely, the soul power detected when the martial soul awakens can be improved. Yu Chen lost his parents, and all he can rely on is his family. If he is detected to have higher innate soul power, it is obvious that he can receive more cultivation from the family. Although there may be a way to enhance soul power, it is unlikely to have much effect in 20 days, but being idle is still idle. It's worth finding something to do. Furthermore, if a method can be found to enhance soul power, it can be used not only now, but also in the future. However, Tang San comes from a low martial arts world and has the authentic Tang sex, Xiantian Baolu, as a cheat. However, he comes from a modern technological society and does not know martial arts, let alone cultivation. When it comes to cultivation, he knows nothing about it. He only knows all kinds of scattered pithy formula from the internet, and he doesn't know whether it is true or not. Yu Chen tried all the various techniques that could still be remembered in his mind, but the result was obvious and useless. But hard work pays off for those who have a heart, and in the end, he discovered a method that can stimulate soul power. Tai Chi. When practicing Tai Chi, Yu Chen could vaguely sense an extremely weak heat flow in the dantian area of his abdomen. Every time a complete set of Tai Chi is completed, this trend can gain some strength. After 20 days, this heat flow has doubled. But still incredibly weak. Although it was unclear how much soul power it was, this faint feeling made Yu Chen subconsciously feel that his innate soul power would not exceed 2 levels. If his martial soul is the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, as a top-level beast martial soul, at least it will also be accompanied by a 5th level innate soul power. Has the martial soul mutated maliciously? Yu Chen guessed with some bitterness. The malignant mutation of the martial soul will not change his determination to become stronger. But who doesn't want their path to be smooth sailing without any difficulties or obstacles? During his contemplation, Yu Chen arrived at the martial soul awakening square in the center of his tribe. 3 children have already lined up to awaken, and he is the 4th and last of the month. Yu Chen consciously walked to the end of the team. The soul master who awakened for them waited for a moment longer, and when no one appeared again, he began this ritual. On the ground at the forefront of the team, 6 black stones were quietly placed in a circle. At the beginning of the ceremony, the boy at the forefront stepped into the middle of the circle under guidance. Then, I heard the soul master in charge of the awakening ceremony recite in a low voice. Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, possessed. Z, accompanied by the blue-purple electric light, the person exhibited extremely obvious dragon-like features. Dragon claws, dragon legs, and a single dragon wing suddenly opening behind them. At the same time, 5 soul rings rose from his feet one after another. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, purple. He is truly a 5-ring soul king. In the next moment, he quickly shot with both hands, injecting 6 purple lights into the 6 black stones on the ground. Suddenly, a layer of golden radiance was released from the stone, forming a pale golden light shield that enveloped the children in the stone circle. Gold dots floated out from the black stones on the ground and then entered the boy's body. The boy's body began to tremble slightly, wanting to scream but unable to make a sound. Before long, the dots of light that had previously entered his body suddenly surged out. In an instant, a blue-purple dragon appeared behind him in the form of a beast's shadow. The animal's shadow disappeared in an instant, transforming into light dots and dissipating. Subsequently, the boy's eyebrows suddenly lit up with a dazzling blue light. Immediately after, blue light diffused and descended from his eyebrows into his entire body, causing a burst of blue-purple excitation like a small snake, swimming around his body. This is a manifestation of martial soul possession. Not bad, it's the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex martial soul. Come and test your soul power. The soul master in charge of the awakening ceremony placed a blue crystal ball in front of the boy. The boy obediently placed his hand on the crystal ball, which quickly lit up with a strong light. Level 6 Soul Power. Level 5 Soul Power. Level 6 Soul Power. In the blink of an eye, the 3 children in front of Yuchen successfully awakened, all of whom were blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex martial souls. In most regions, innate level 5 or 6 soul power is a rare talent. But in the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, this is just ordinary and not worth paying more attention to. Innate 7th level soul power is considered excellent. Being born at level 8 is the key to making people look up to others and emphasizing cultivation. Being born at level 9 is the only way to be recognized as a genius by the family and allocate a large amount of resources. As for the supreme genius with innate soul power, even the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family has not appeared for decades. You're the only one left, I hope you can give me a surprise. Upon hearing this, Yuchen lifted his head and gave a smirk to the 5-ring soul king. No surprise, it's a good thing not to scare you. Sure enough, when the light spots in the black stones entered Yuchen's body and surged out again, what they brought out was not the top-level beast soul blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex. But rather, an unnamed animal that exists independently from its owner, with a peculiar appearance and even a certain level of self-awareness. It looks like a dog, but its size is more like a pig. The body length is close to 1 meter, and surprisingly, the waist circumference is also similar. He has light purple hair all over his body, 2 drooping small ears, and 4 particularly short and thick calves. A pair of deep blue big eyes blinked and blinked, their eyes were very gentle. The fat body twisted a little, and the fat buttocks suddenly swayed left and right. There are 2 bulges on the top of the head, round, and I don't know what they are. As soon as it appeared, it leaned close to Yuchen's body and rubbed its head against the owner's leg. In an instant, the whole room fell silent. Goo. Yuchen swallowed his saliva and looked at his martial soul with an extremely complex expression, murmuring in his heart. Xiaogang, the same martial soul as Luo Sanpao. End of this chapter. Chapter 2. Lu Erlong appears. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 2 Lu Erlong appears. Xiaogang, the son of the leader of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, is the teacher of Tang San, the protagonist of the original work Douluo Continent. Due to the malignant mutation of the martial soul, the innate soul power is only half level, and the cultivation speed is slow. His soul power reaches level 29, which is his limit, and he cannot break through level 30 for life. Being too useless and being expelled from the family. Afterwards, he switched to theoretical research and achieved considerable success. In the realm of soul masters, they are known as invincible in theory, and have the title of Master. Not only is the martial soul the same as Yu Xiaogang, but even my innate soul power is the same as him. Half-level soul power. No, my soul power has doubled under the influence of Tai Chi, so my innate soul power is not even as good as Yu Xiaogang, only 0.25. It has been 3 days since the awakening of the martial soul, and Yu Chen gradually accepted the fact that the martial soul is the same as Yu Xiaogang. Although his innate soul power is not even comparable to that of Yu Xiaogang, Yu Chen did not underestimate himself. After all, he is the son of the clan chief, who is a title Douluo at level 95. He is just a collateral child, and his parents only had a soul power of level 30 or 40 before their death. Although it was never specifically stated in the original work, Yu Chen was almost certain that a person's innate soul power was not fixed. Parental genes, fetal development, and nutritional intake before awakening at the age of 6 can all have an impact on innate soul power. Otherwise, how can the same martial soul have different innate soul power expressions? Obviously, among the aforementioned factors, Yu Chen, a collateral orphan, is far inferior to Yu Xiaogang. But his innate soul power can still reach half of that of Yu Xiaogang, which indicates that his qualifications are likely to surpass Yu Xiaogang. Additionally, I used to be afraid that the martial soul would mutate into something messy, but now I'm relieved to confirm that it has mutated into Luo Sanpao. Not only did he breathe a sigh of relief, but in fact, Yu Chen was also somewhat relieved. The reason is that although in the eyes of the world, Luo Sanpao is a malignant mutation of the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex, Yu Chen has read the original work and knows clearly that this is not a true malignant mutation, but a failed positive mutation. As long as you find the right method, Luo Sanpao can achieve evolution and become the golden holy dragon that surpasses blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex. In terms of the original work alone, Yu Xiaogang achieved the evolution of his martial soul by relying on top-grade Lingji such as Jiupin Ziji. Jiupin Ziji helped him break the bottleneck of soul power at levels 29 to 30, and strengthened his foundation in Qi, increasing his power. After level 30, Yu Xiaogang obtained the third soul ring, which allowed Luo Sanpao to undergo some evolution. At level 50, Luo Sanpao officially evolved into a dragon. I am familiar with the plot and can definitely find a way to seize the opportunity of Yu Xiaogang and get the 9th grade purple mushroom in advance. Although I am not sure about the time difference between my time and the original work, I heard that the current pope is still Chihiro Ji, not later Bibi Dong. Chihiro Ji died in the year Tang San was born, and the original plot started when Tang San was 6 years old. It was only at the age of 13 that he obtained the 9th grade purple mushroom and gave it to Yu Xiaogang. That is to say, I have at least 13 years left to plan this top-notch Ganoderma lucidum plant. With my foresight, I have a high chance of success. But can I be satisfied with this alone? In his small courtyard, Yu Chen practiced Tai Chi while pondering carefully. In his heart, Jiupin Ziji is just a guaranteed option that won't go wrong. If you need to rely on external objects to evolve your martial soul, compared to the 9th grade purple mushroom that is not a fairy grass, the top-level fairy grass crystal blood dragon ginseng is definitely a better choice. But whether it's the 9th grade purple fungus or the crystal blood dragon ginseng, they are not something I can touch now. Before I have the ability to obtain immortal grass, I should also find ways to strengthen my martial soul through other means. The most feasible and easiest way to think of is: attach the correct soul ring to Luo Sanpao. In Douluo continent, the martial soul of soul masters is not static. Every time you obtain a soul ring, it can bring some changes to the martial soul. Generally speaking, the weaker the martial soul, the greater the change brought by the soul ring. The martial soul of the protagonist Tang San, blue silver grass, is well known as the abandoned martial soul. Even the lowest level 10-year soul ring can cause significant changes. And for top-level martial souls like blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex, the impact of soul rings is relatively weak. After the mutation of Yu Chen's martial soul, it is obvious that he is particularly weak. If it is given the correct soul ring, it is likely to promote its evolution and shift towards the direction of the Golden Holy Dragon. The problem is, what kind of soul ring is correct for it? Yu Xiaojiang's Luo Sanpao appeared for the first time in the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex family, and people had no idea what it was. In this case, as long as his father did not suspect that he was wearing a green hat, he would naturally follow the family tradition and attach a soul ring with the thunder attribute of a dragon to it. I believe that this is how Yu Xiaojiang's first soul skill, farting like thunder, thunderous and earth-shattering Luo Sanpao, came about. The Luo Sanpao undoubtedly has a certain thunder attribute, which is why its fur is purple. Moreover, after awakening the same martial soul, I can also feel the thunder element in the air through it. However, unfortunately, this thunder attribute is not only not its assistance, but also the wrong product left by its evolution failure. After the successful evolution of Luo Sanpao, he became the Golden Holy Dragon. The specific information is unclear, with only a few lines of narration introducing him as the head of thousands of dragons, also known as the Holy Giant Dragon. This narration relies on the understanding of the title Douluo Dugu, and it is incorrect to say otherwise. However, the main attribute of the Golden Holy Dragon is undoubtedly light. In the Do-Air period 10,000 years later, Mu'an, the descendant of Yu Xiaojiang, had a martial soul that was purely a light attribute, bright holy dragon. Therefore, the soul rings I will obtain in the future must come from light attribute dragon beasts. Moreover, the purer the bloodline, the better. Here's the problem again, how can he hunt a soul beast that meets the requirements as an orphan with no parents? The family is obviously unreliable. Yu Xiaojiang is the biological son of the clan leader and was still expelled from the family due to being too useless. Can he expect any help as a collateral child? It was not because of Yu Xiaojiang's previous experience that he immediately expelled Yu Qin, which already made the family appear somewhat humane. Before awakening Su Hui, I always seemed independent and had no friends to play with, nor did I have any elders who cared about me. I don't know if it's still too late to please those elders now. Maybe it's too late, right? But there is one person who has a 99% chance of helping me. Erlong. Speaking of this, Yu Chen just finished practicing Tai Chi once. The soul power in Dantian has further strengthened. Gu, I'm hungry, it's time to prepare lunch. He turned around and prepared to walk into the room. But at the next moment, his pupils suddenly widened. I don't know when, not far behind him, a beautiful and mature woman in green appeared, full of beauty, rough waves, and maturity. As her eyes met, the woman smiled and spoke. Hello, little one, my name is Luo Erlong. According to the family hierarchy, I can be considered your aunt. End of this chapter. Chapter 3. It's called Yinglong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 3. It's called Yinglong. Luo Erlong, Yu Xiaojiang's cousin, has been infatuated with him for decades. She and Yu Xiaojiang fell in love and almost entered the marriage hall. But on the day they got married, Luo Erlong's father, who was also the second uncle of Yu Xiaojiang, suddenly appeared and pointed out that they were cousins, blood relatives within 3 generations. Yu Xiaojiang couldn't accept this and chose to escape, hiding in a small border town. Since then, for the next 20 years, Luo Erlong has never received any news from Yu Xiaojiang, nor can he be found. He can only wait hard and tears wash his face all day long. In Yu Chen's view, if Luo Erlong finds out that his martial soul is the same as Yu Xiaojiang, for the sake of Yu Xiaojiang, she has a high probability of being willing to help him. After all, his and Yu Xiaojiang's martial souls are not the blue-silver grass of a bad street, but the only 2 in the world, Luo Sanpao. The fact proves that Yu Chen's guess is very accurate. But he thought it would take him a lot of effort to get in touch with Luo Erlong, but he didn't expect it. Before he could exert his strength, Luo Erlong came to his door first. Good guy, is this woman so proactive and thirsty? Auntie. Yu Chen took a step back with a hint of caution on his face. I don't know you, what are you doing with me? Don't be so nervous, take it easy. Although I suddenly appeared at your house, it may have scared you a bit, but I promise there's no malice. As he spoke, Luo Erlong turned his head to stroke the green hair hanging from his temples and smiled softly, saying, Your name is Yu Chen, right? I'm here to cultivate you. Do you want to become stronger? Yes, of course I do. But how to answer her? Luo Erlong's sudden arrival caught Yu Chen off guard. Especially, the last second he was still thinking about how to calculate others, and now he couldn't help but feel guilty and unable to deal with Luo Erlong in the most natural way. Just at this moment, Dugu, his stomach was so hungry that it made a noise again. Yu Chen's face turned red and she instinctively covered her stomach. Therefore, he finally thought of what he should do next. Luo Erlong. Auntie. He blurted out this title with some hesitation, and then said seriously. I'm ready to make lunch. If you're not busy, why don't you sit on the chair over there for a while? We'll have lunch together when it's ready. If there's anything else, let's talk about it then, okay? Okay, that's good, but before that. Looking at the cute and delicate-looking little boy in front of him, Luo Erlong blinked his eyes, emitting a hopeful light. Can I take a look at your martial soul? Bad news travels fast. The news of another Luo Sanpao from the Blue Electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family was transmitted to Luo Erlong, who was in the Blue Ba Academy, through several intermediaries in the evening 2 days after Yu Chen awakened his martial soul. The next morning, early this morning, Luo Erlong rushed back to his family and specifically searched for Yu Chen. She had intended to appear in front of Yu Chen straightforwardly, but when she arrived at the small courtyard where Yu Chen lived, she found him practicing a strange set of martial arts. When Luo Erlong became interested, he didn't rush to appear, but instead hid in the dark and secretly observed. She has a straightforward and hot temper, only showing a gentle side in certain specific situations. Everything about Xiaogang can turn her from a volcano into spring water. Do you want to see my martial soul? Aha! Luo Erlong nodded heavily, his eyes shining. TSK. Yu Chen secretly pursed his lips. Look at her posture, she looks like a little girl begging adults for candy. Douluo continent, also known as Love Continent, has some characters in the work whose love brain is almost hopeless, and Luo Erlong is a typical one among them. If there is a suitable opportunity, Yu Chen doesn't mind treating her love brain. But now, their relationship is far from that level, and he has a request from Luo Erlong, so naturally he can only follow her. He closed his hands on his chest and quickly spread them downwards. A light purple soul power surged out of his palm, accompanied by a slight fluctuation of soul power. In the blink of an eye, a chubby animal appeared next to him. Hello, hello. The chubby guy first snorted twice, then affectionately rubbed against Yu Chen's leg. Meanwhile, Luo Erlong's eyes were already filled with tears. Luo Sanpao. It's really Luo Sanpao. Before she could finish speaking, she suddenly rushed towards the martial soul beside Yu Chen, opened her arms, and embraced it in her arms. In an instant, Yu Chen felt as if he was immersed in a warm and elastic sponge. Although Luo Erlong was holding his martial soul, by default, his senses were connected to the martial soul. The reason why Luo Erlong is so excited is obviously that he treated his martial soul as a substitute for Xiaogang. In just an instant, Luo Erlong's face was filled with tears. Ordinary people, upon seeing this scene, probably cannot help but feel sympathy and offer comfort to Luo Erlong. But at this moment, Yu Chen only pointed out coldly. What Luo Sanpao? I named my martial soul Yinglong, it's not a Luo Sanpao. For profit reasons, Yu Chen is very willing for Luo Erlong to use him as a substitute for Xiaogang, which obviously can bring many benefits. But if Luo Erlong treated his martial soul completely like Luo Sanpao from Xiaogang, he would find it unbearable. His martial soul will never be wasted for decades like Luo Sanpao of Xiaogang in his current almost pig-like form. He will definitely make it evolve successfully as soon as possible, with fish leaping over the gate and hidden dragons emerging from the abyss. But despite Yu Chen's loud correction, Lu Erlong ignored it and was completely immersed in her own world. After a moment of silence, Yu Chen coldly reminded. My soul power is about to run out. After finishing speaking, with a pop sound, Yinglong's short and chubby figure suddenly disappeared. Yinglong is still very weak, and after being summoned, the consumption of soul power is also very small. But no matter how small the consumption is, his only half-level soul power cannot be maintained for long. Bang! Without support, Lu Erlong fell down and lay on the ground. Those two large round objects, due to their tight and firm texture, still display beautiful curves even when pressed down. In fact, with Lu Erlong's current level of 59 and almost level 60 Soul Emperor strength, he can completely maintain his body unshakable at the moment when Yu Chen regains his martial soul. But she sees things and thinks of people, she doesn't have that heart at all. Even if she fell to the ground, she didn't stand up immediately, but just remembered the past without moving. Listening to her uncontrollable sobs, Yu Chen finally felt a little unbearable. After hesitating for a moment, I placed my hand on her head and gently touched it to comfort her. Although Lu Erlong is immersed in memories of the past, it does not mean that she has lost her perception of the outside world. Thanks to Yu Chen's actions, she finally sorted out her overflowing emotions. It's okay if Yu Chen doesn't comfort her, but once she comforts her, how can she continue to cry in front of this child? What a shame. Getting up from the ground, Lu Erlong dusted his clothes, wiped away his tears, and smiled calmly at Yu Chendan. Sorry, Xiaogang. Aunt just remembered an old friend. I guess so, Yu Chen replied calmly. Now you have seen my martial soul. Is there anything else? It's okay now. Lu Erlong remained silent for a moment, wanting to say something to close the relationship, but when his gaze touched Yu Chen's expressionless face, his words were suppressed. This child seems to have remained calm and mature since her arrival. It's probably not an easy task to persuade him and take him away through words. But it's okay, often actions are more persuasive than words. Xiaogang, don't be so indifferent. Speaking, Lu Erlong calmly approached Yu Chen's side. Subsequently, Yu Chen felt his body light. He was unexpectedly picked up by Lu Erlong. Xiaogang, aren't you hungry? Don't think about cooking for yourself. Auntie will take you to Qiando City for a big meal. From now on, you will follow your aunt's side and I will raise you as my own son. After her recent weakness, Lu Erlong once again revealed her tough side. In fact, the latter is the true embodiment of her personality. She must take Yu Chen away today. Yu Chen. Although I wish I could be taken away by you, should I be more reserved at this moment? After all, this is only his first meeting with Lu Erlong. If he agrees too readily, it would be abnormal. Just as he was about to show hesitation and resistance, Lu Erlong pressed his slender fingers onto his lips. Don't refuse. Xiaogang, you should also know that it is difficult to cultivate you in the family. But as long as you go with your aunt, she guarantees to do everything I can to help you become stronger and never break her promise. Yu Chen lifted his head and met her 4 eyes. I saw the woman's eyes flickering with stars, full of sincerity. She is so sincere, not to mention that Yu Chen had no intention of refusing, even if there were any thoughts of rejection, she would probably be moved to some extent. Okay. The boy nodded slowly. Do you agree? Lu Erlong's face lit up with joy. That's great. It's not too late, let's go now, she exclaimed excitedly. Wait a minute. Auntie, before that, should I tidy up my belongings first? Oh, that's right, I'll help you too. After speaking, Lu Erlong prepared to let Yu Chen down from his arms. But at this moment, she suddenly remembered something and continued. By the way, Xiaogang, what name did you give to martial soul? Auntie didn't hear it clearly before. Yu Chen rolled his eyes. So you heard me correct you before, didn't you listen to anything? Okay, I'll say it again, Yu Chen said solemnly. Please remember, my martial soul is not a Luo Sanpao. It's called Yinglong. It should be a dragon. Shouldn't it be a dragon, should it be a dragon? Good name. Of course it's a good name. Yu Chen boasted to himself in his heart. In fact, naming a martial soul Yinglong does not simply mean, it should be a dragon. In the myths and legends of Yu Chen's past life, there existed a person named Yinglong, who is the ancestor of many divine beasts such as dragons, phoenixes, and qilin. He is a giant god that integrates creation, and destruction, and also holds the positions of creation god, and war god. Evolving the martial soul into the golden holy dragon achieved by Xiaogang cannot satisfy Yu Chen's appetite and ambition at all. He hopes that his martial soul can surpass the golden holy dragon and approach the mythical dragon of the Trinity step by step. End of this chapter. Chapter 4. Kissing Luo Erlong. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 4 Kissing Luo Erlong. On March 1, 2631 of the Douluo calendar, the Martial Soul Hall released a major news. Pope Qianshuangji was killed by the newly appointed Douluo Tang Hao, and the former saint of the Martial Soul Hall, Bibidong, succeeded him as the pope. As soon as he succeeded, Bibidong issued a wanted notice for Tang Hao throughout the mainland. The relationship between the Haotian sect, which cultivated Tang Hao, and the Martial Soul Hall became extremely tense. The conflict between the two seems to be imminent. However, although Haotian sect is the leader of the upper three sects, in the absence of Tang Chen, the peerless Douluo at level 99, and no news of the newly appointed Douluo Tang Hao, only the sect leader Tang Xiao was granted the Douluo title in the sect. On the surface of the Martial Soul Hall, there are 8 or 9 titles. If there is a conflict, it will only be a one-sided crushing. In order to preserve the sect, Tang Xiao had to announce the complete expulsion of Tang Hao from the sect, as well as the closure of the sect, retirement from the martial arts world, and severing ties with the outside world. Tang Hao. After the succession ceremony, Bibidong entered the papal hall alone and whispered a name, with a hint of guilt in his eyes. In fact, the wanted Tang Hao was her last resort. As for herself, not only did she have no hatred towards Tang Hao, but she was also somewhat grateful. If it weren't for Tang Hao seriously injuring Qianshuangji, how would she have had the chance to kill him and devour him? Bibidong threw the blame for killing Qianshuangji onto Tang Hao and issued a wanted notice across the whole continent. It's really sorry for Tang Hao. However, although Bibidong has issued a wanted notice, it is just a show. You should know that while the Martial Soul Hall issued a wanted notice, it also announced Tang Hao's military achievements. Once he became a titled Douluo, he beat the 3 titled Douluo in the Martial Soul Hall to death and 2 injuries in a 1.1 battle. Among them, Qianshuan's illness was originally just an injury, but now his head is also counted on Tang Hao's head. And this former pope is a level 95 super Douluo with top-notch angel martial souls. It's hard to say whether Tang Hao is actually wanted or whether he wants to make a name for himself. In fact, it is precisely because of this that the reputation of Tang Hao, known as Haotian Douluo, has spread throughout the mainland. Regarding Tang Hao's matter, Bibidong only thought for a while. After pondering for a long time, she recruited her subordinates and used their power for personal gain, assigning her the first secret task of becoming the Empress of Education. Collecting all intelligence about Xiaogang. So, a few days later, a special piece of intelligence with a portrait was presented to Bibidong's desk. The blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex family has introduced the same type of martial soul as Xiaogang, and the owner of the martial soul is named Yu Chen. Placing his hand on the soul-testing crystal ball, witnessing its faint glow, Yu Chen slowly curled his lips. Finally, I have a level 1 soul power. It has been a whole month since Luo Erlong was taken away from the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, and this is the result of his efforts over the past month. Although this soul power is still insignificant, for him, who was born with only 0.25 levels of soul power, any progress is worth celebrating. At this moment, a faint sound of footsteps echoed behind him. Subsequently, there was a gentle voice from a certain woman. First level soul power. Xiao Chen is amazing. Thanks to the meditation method you taught me, Auntie. Yu Chen turned around and smiled at Luo Erlong, who was dressed in green. Glancing over the figure of Luo Erlong, it was evident that behind it was a lush forest, which was boundless at first glance. And the place where Yu Chen and Luo Erlong are currently located is the center of the forest. This is an open area artificially created. The main part of the region is a small lake. The diameter of the lake's surface is about 50 meters, and a small stream about 3 meters wide quietly injects water from the other side of the forest, then flows back, keeping the small lake still alive. Beside the pool, there is a rudimentary thatched cottage built with wooden boards and thatch, completely integrated with the surrounding environment. This is Luo Erlong's residence, of course. Now we need to add a jade chin. The thatched cottage may seem rudimentary, but in reality, it was originally very rudimentary. But after Luo Erlong took over Yu Chen from the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family, he made some adjustments and added many daily necessities, all of which were much better than the small courtyard where Yu Chen used to live alone. There is also a fence around the thatched cottage, inside which various flowers are planted. At this moment, it is spring, and flowers are blooming in full bloom, colorful and beautiful. On the only path outside the forest in this area, there is a sign hanging on a particularly sturdy tree with a line of words engraved on it. Important area of the college, please do not enter unless requested. That's right, the entire forest belongs to a Soul Master Academy. Blue Master Academy. Luo Erlong is the dean of this college, and this place can also be seen as the principal's office. Upon hearing Yu Chen's somewhat polite words, Luo Erlong frowned and walked forward, impolitely grabbing the boy's cheek and randomly tugging. Xiao Chen, you've been spending a month with your aunt day and night, why are you still so open-minded? I don't think there's anything I can thank you for. Besides, didn't you thank me long ago? Pop. The boy's little hand hit the woman's jade hands, which were not much larger than him, in an attempt to stop the woman from infringing on him. But to no avail. Luo Erlong smiled and continued to pinch Yu Chen's face. Helpless, Yu Chen adopted a reciprocal strategy and also reached out to grab her cheek. Luo Erlong is currently 35 years old, but he looks only 25.6 years old, youthful and beautiful. The softness of her face is not inferior to that of a 6-year-old child like Yu Chen. Oh, are you resisting like this? But Luo Erlong's eyes lit up, not only not unhappy, but also slightly smiling, scheming. The next moment. Luo Erlong gave Yu Chen a heavy kiss on the forehead. Yu Chen. Boy, are you playing like this? Do you really think I would imitate you in everything I do to resist your atrocities? Then you have misread the person. Unexpectedly. After several consecutive kisses, apart from his lips, Luo Erlong almost kissed Yu Chen's face all over. Okay, Luo Erlong, you insist on playing like this, then no wonder he is. Boo. 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 In a more wild posture than Luo Erlong, Yu Chen turned around and kissed her more times. Hee, you're so accurate at judging people. Yu Chen is not a pure-hearted teenager, on the contrary, he is a complete carnivore. Luo Erlong rushed to deliver benefits to him, why didn't he accept it? Boo, haha, don't kiss anymore. Auntie let you go. After being kissed by the boy like a storm, Luo Erlong smiles and hugs Yu Chen into his arms excitedly. Although we have been together for a whole month, Yu Chen's attitude towards her before was not cold, but it was far from being close. I didn't expect that after giving it a try today, her relationship with Yu Chen has made such great progress. Sure enough, I should take the initiative more often. Luo Erlong thought to himself. So, immediately after, she took the initiative to say, "Xiaochen, will you please kiss your aunt more in the future? Not good. Things that are too easy to obtain will not be cherished," although Yu Chen also wants to kiss Luo Erlong more, not even satisfied with kissing his face, but also wants to kiss other places. But at this moment, he must make it clear that it is not good. As the words fell, Yu Chen exerted a slight force and tried to break free from Luo Erlong's embrace, but to no avail. Since that's the case, he can only rely on Luo Erlong's soft chest with peace of mind, occasionally pretending to unintentionally rub and pinch. "Hey, now I know Conan's fun." But Luo Erlong swung his fist again and said fiercely, "Give you another chance, think it over before you speak." Yu Chen. What can he do? He can only comply. With a forced and helpless expression, Yu Chen turned his head angrily. After a while, a sentence of unwillingness and unwillingness emerged from the mouth. "Okay, I promise you." "Ha, I knew it, Xiaochen is so good." Luo Erlong instantly smiled and couldn't help but pick up Yu Chen's face, bowing several times in succession. After a while, she finally remembered the main thing. "By the way, Xiaochen, didn't you ask your aunt to help you pay attention to the big things in this world? Aunt doesn't know what the standard for big things is in your eyes, but this matter definitely meets." As he spoke, Luo Erlong's expression suddenly became serious, and a complex and indescribable light flickered in his eyes. Just 2 days ago, Saints Bai, and Dong from the former Martial Soul Temple succeeded to the position of Pope. When mentioning the name Bibi Dong, Luo Erlong paused word by word, with a tone that felt like he wanted to swallow it. "Tsk." Yu Chen secretly pursed his lips. "Although you and Bibi Dong are rivals in love, there's no need to hate them so much, right? Since the separation of Bibi Dong and Yu Xiaogang, although their relationship has been lingering, it seems that they have never competed with you for Yu Xiaogang from beginning to end. Tsk, the love brain is really down. Speaking of which, has Bibi Dong become the Pope?" Upon hearing this news, Yu Chen finally gained a clear understanding of the time point she is currently in. 6 years before the start of the plot, the protagonist of the original work, Tang San, had just been born not long ago. He was 6 years older than Tang San. End of this chapter. Chapter 5. Blood Purification. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 5 Blood Purification. Perhaps because of mentioning Bibi Dong, Luo Erlong suddenly remembered Yu Xiaogang. Then, she touched Yu Chen's head and gently said, "Xiaochen, your soul power has reached level 1 now. Do you want to summon Luo Yinglong and see how long you can maintain it now? You should know that soul masters cannot completely avoid battles. Therefore, having a clear understanding and mastery of your own power is very important." Sigh. Yu Chen sighed inwardly. Although Luo Erlong's words are very reasonable, it is likely that this statement was only made by her on the spot to cover up her true purpose. Moreover, if it weren't for his displeased gaze cast in the middle of his speech, Luo Erlong would probably have spoken fluently and called his Yinglong Luo Sanpao. Its true purpose is also easy to guess. To take a few more glances at Yinglong. To be precise, I wanted to see the shadow of Yu Xiaogang through Yinglong. Okay. Yu Chen was too lazy to argue against Luo Erlong anymore, so he obediently summoned Yinglong. Leaving aside the purpose of Luo Erlong's love brain, he does need to have a better understanding of Yinglong. At the moment when Yinglong, who had light purple fur all over his body, appeared, Luo Erlong's expression became even more excited than when he was just kissed by Yu Chen. This is natural. At this stage, although Lu Erlong is very good to Yu Chen, it is entirely for the sake of Yinglong's face. The next moment, she even abandoned Yu Chen. As if seeing some rare treasure, brush and approach Yinglong. But because in the past month, Lu Erlong has seen Yinglong many times, she now appears much more reserved than when we first met. Without losing control of emotions, he forcefully hugged Yinglong, but only gently stroked this short and chubby little guy. Seeing this, Yu Chen didn't have any jealous thoughts. After all, he has a sensory connection with Yinglong, and when Lu Erlong touches Yinglong, it is equivalent to touching him. Yu Chen did not inform Lu Erlong about this matter and chose to quietly make a fortune. Speaking of which, the original work did not mention the sensory connection between Xiaogang and Luo Sanpao, and it is unclear whether this is his unique feature compared to Xiaogang. There is a high possibility, as I have only heard that the various traits of the stable inherited martial soul are almost identical. The mutated martial soul is full of wonders, how can it be truly identical? But not long after, Yu Chen took the initiative to block the perception transmitted by Yinglong. Lu Erlong's caressing of Yinglong's head and back was okay, making him feel very comfortable, but when she touched Yinglong's belly, Yu Chen felt itchy and didn't adapt much. About 5 minutes later, Lu Erlong stopped teasing the dragon and turned his gaze back to Yu Chen. "Xiao Chen, how do you feel? Can you still persist?" "Ha." Yu Chen raised his eyebrows. He thought Lu Erlong would just indulge in it and keep teasing Yinglong until he disappeared. Unexpectedly, Lu Erlong remembered what he had just said and stopped to inquire about his condition. "Not bad, I should be able to hold on for another 2 or 3 minutes." When he first awakened his martial soul, he could only sustain Yinglong for 3 minutes outside the body, and now the time has more than doubled. It's good that the martial soul is weak. If you replace it with other powerful martial souls, such as the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex, the first-level soul power cannot even be used with the most basic martial soul attachments. 2 or 3 minutes. Lu Erlong repeated thoughtfully, then blinked and smiled. "Xiao Chen, do you think Yinglong can eat?" Yu Chen glanced at Lu Erlong's eyes and said lightly. "I'm not sure, and I dare not let it eat randomly. So, should we give it a try?" As soon as the words fell, Lu Erlong took out a white radish from his portable storage soul guide and skillfully pushed it towards Yinglong's mouth. Just touching Yinglong is no longer enough to satisfy Lu Erlong. She wants to go further and feed him. "What are you doing?" In an instant, Yu Chen's eyes were about to crack. With a sudden thought, he quickly asked Yinglong to avoid feeding. "What's wrong?" Lu Erlong stroked his hair and looked at him puzzled. Yu Chen fell silent for a moment, realizing that his reaction earlier had been a bit exaggerated. But after calming down, he still said very displeased, "Auntie, didn't I say that? I dare not let it eat randomly." "It's okay." Lu Erlong still realized the problem and said gently, "Xiao Chen, my aunt can guarantee that Yinglong can definitely eat carrots." After a moment of silence, Yu Chen couldn't help but ask back. "Auntie, do you want to raise my Yinglong like a pig?" "Hey." This statement silenced Lu Erlong. At this moment, she finally vaguely realized some of Yu Chen's thoughts. Does Xiao Chen feel that I am belittling him? She began to reflect. Although she had no intention of raising Yinglong as a pig, it was true that feeding Yinglong carrots was somewhat disrespectful to her. Yinglong, it should have been a dragon. Whose dragon can eat ordinary radishes? My act of feeding Yinglong radish made Xiao Chen feel that I didn't really treat Yinglong like a dragon, so he thought I underestimated him. But, Luo Sanpao is someone who eats white radish. Lu Erlong felt quite aggrieved. Yu Chen also knows that Luo Sanpao eats carrots. But when Luo Sanpao eats carrots, must his Yinglong eat them? Let's not see what Luo Sanpao's 2 soul skills are. Farting like thunder and farting like smoke. Listening to a name makes one unable to help but cover their mouth and nose. The reason why Luo Sanpao is named is because its sound is Luo Luo, so it is, Luo. The second reason is that it can only cast skills 3 times in a row, which means it can fart 3 times in a row, so it is called 3 cannons. The passage of time will cool down Luo Sanpao's skills, which means that the gas required for farting will gradually be replenished. And white radish can stimulate farts and accelerate the cooldown of Luo Sanpao's skills. This is why Luo Sanpao eats carrots. Feed the white radish to urge the fart. This is really a genius idea. Xiaogang may even be complacent about coming up with this idea. But if I remember correctly, even if eating white radish to boost my fart, Luo Sanpao's skill cooldown takes at least an hour each time, which is only the time required for a skill cooldown. Once all 3 times are used up, it will take 3 hours to fully recover. What practical significance does this have if we say that the 3 attacks of Luo Sanpao are all very powerful, each time they can instantly kill the enemy, that's all. The problem is, its fart is very useless. Xiaogang, with a soul power of 29 levels, can only bully a soul beast for 10 years. He cannot even deal with a slightly stronger 100-year soul beast. Yuchen's evaluation is to simply stay at home and not go out. Oh, Yu Xiao has just been expelled from the family, so there's no other way to suppress it. In fact, the characteristic of Luo Sanpao being able to eat is very unique to Yuchen. Since it can eat, it is likely to have a life system similar to that of normal organisms in its body. But the food it eats will neither enter Xiaogang's stomach nor produce excrement, except for fart. What does this mean? What it eats is likely to become a part of itself. And it should be noted that Luo Sanpao himself was a product of failed mutation towards the direction of the Golden Holy Dragon, and was inherently deficient, with only a weak bloodline of the Golden Holy Dragon. It's all like this, Xiaogang still needs to add trash-like impurities to Luo Sanpao's body. How did Luo Sanpao evolve? So, Yuchen's attitude towards his same martial soul dragon is that he would rather not eat it than touch those ordinary foods. Sorry, Xiaochen, my aunt ignored your opinion. After reflecting for a while, Lu Erlong bent down with a soft figure, apologized proactively, and then asked in a soft voice. What do you think should be fed to Yinglong? Yuchen blinked his eyes, showing an embarrassed expression, and then the lion spoke loudly. If you must feed it, of course, it must be a heavenly and earthly treasure that can purify the blood vessels in Yinglong's body. End of this chapter. Chapter 6. Revealing Xiaogang. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 6 Revealing Xiaogang Tiankai Dibao is a very unfamiliar term for most soul masters. How unfamiliar is it? In the realm of soul masters, there is a dream list for soul masters. The list ranks the coveted items of soul masters based on their rarity. The first ranked one is the 100,000-year soul ring, and the second ranked one is the external soul bone. In the entire list, there is no existence of natural resources and treasures at all. In fact, any soul master who has heard of this term knows that it is a precious thing no less than a soul bone. Heavenly materials and earthly treasures may not increase the instant combat power of soul masters like soul bones, but they often enhance their potential and accelerate their cultivation speed. Among them, it is top-notch and even has a special effect of transforming decay into magic. The reason why there are no heavenly and earthly treasures on the Soul Master Dream List is because the vast majority of Soul Masters have never heard of this term. From the phenomenon in the original work that poisoned Douluo sits in the treasure trove of ice and fire, but has no understanding of the surrounding immortal grass, it can be seen that the people of Douluo continent have an extremely shallow understanding of heavenly materials and earth treasures. Even the titled Douluo standing at the top of the mainland doesn't know what immortal grass is, let alone those ordinary people. But Lu Erlong comes from the blue electric Tyrannosaurus Rex family. Even if she is just an illegitimate daughter, she is still the illegitimate daughter of the contemporary two family leaders. Of course, she still has some knowledge, so she cannot understand Yuchen's words. 2 days later. When Yuchen finished practicing Tai Chi once, a shock suddenly came from behind. Accompanied by the smoke and dust that shook the ground, Luo Erlong slammed the unconscious Yalong to the ground. I'm sorry, Xiaochen. Auntie couldn't find the heavenly and earthly treasures that can purify blood vessels. But second and foremost, Auntie thought that dragon blood and dragon meat might also be effective. Dragon blood, dragon meat. Yu Chen pondered for a moment and felt that it was not impossible. But we can only giving Long some food first, and if it doesn't work, immediately give up this idea. If useful, of course, it's a big feast. Thank you, Auntie. Yu Chen walked forward and affectionately took Luo Erlong's hand. It's all said, there's no need to be polite to Aunt. Luo Erlong smiled, this is a Spitfire dragon that has lived for over 300 years. Xiaochen, please wait a little longer. Aunt will immediately clean it up and prepare it for you to eat. The Spitfire dragon, only over 300 years old, is not yet very large in size, but it is also 5 or 6 meters long. Compared to Yu Chen, who has not a single meter, it is completely a behemoth. Luo Erlong was ready and took out a sharp machete to cut through the neck of the dragon beast. Ah! The excruciating pain in the neck startled the Spitfire dragon from its coma, causing it to howl in pain. However, Luo Erlong only lightly punched its head and thoughtfully assisted it with artificial anesthesia. As the blood flowed by, a yellow soul ring emerged from the body of the dragon beast and slowly rose into mid-air. Xiaochen, look, this is the century-old soul ring, Luo Erlong casually mentioned. This is the first time that Yu Chen has witnessed the birth of a soul ring with his own eyes. When your soul power reaches level 10, Xiaochen's aunt will take you out to hunt soul beasts. By the way, Xiaochen, did you know that the maximum absorption period of the first soul ring is 423 years? Auntie will try her best to help you find a one that is close to the maximum absorption period. 423 years. Yu Chen raised his eyebrows and put on a curious baby look. Auntie, how did this data come from? Humph, it's very accurate, isn't it? Luo Erlong replied with a smile on his face, looking at Yu Rongyan. This is the conclusion drawn by a scholar who is revered as a master through research. He is the first person in the Soul Master world theory. Although they have been together for over a month, Luo Erlong has never discussed Yu Xiaogang in front of Yu Chen, let alone confided in him about the past between her and Yu Xiaogang. In daily interactions, Luo Erlong has long discovered that Yu Chen is a mature and independent young man with a strong sense of self-esteem. She was afraid of talking about Yu Xiaogang and saying that it was because of him that she looked at Yu Chen differently, which would damage his self-esteem and lead to resistance, and even the idea of leaving her. If you must tell Yu Chen about this matter, at least wait until her relationship with Yu Chen is deep enough that Yu Chen cannot do without her. Coincidentally, Yu Chen also has similar plans. When Luo Erlong's feelings for him are deep enough, he can effortlessly wipe out Black Jade Xiaogang. No, it shouldn't be said to be smearing, it's clearly exposing. And now let him give it a try. Auntie, I would like to ask first, is this maximum absorption period applicable to everyone? Of course. Luo Erlong replied without lifting his head as he was busy preparing the dragon beasts. Scammer. Luo Erlong paused and looked at Yu Chen in confusion. Xiaochen, what did you say? I said, that master is a fraud. Ha! Almost immediately, a raging anger rose in Luo Erlong's heart. But as soon as she thought that the person in front of her was Yu Chen, she calmed down and patiently said. Xiaochen, you'd better give your aunt a reasonable reason, otherwise she will be angry. Is there any reason for this? This conclusion should be wrong at first glance. People who only know common sense know that the difficulty of absorbing soul rings varies for different soul beasts. Can the absorption difficulty of plant soul rings and animal soul rings be the same for the same age? The absorption difficulty of ordinary animal soul rings and soul beast soul rings with powerful bloodlines is also vastly different. In addition, individuals have varying physical conditions. Let's just say that the soul masters of our blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex family generally have stronger physical fitness than ordinary beast soul masters from the outside world, and their absorption years of soul rings are also higher. The same century-old soul ring can be easily absorbed by the blue electric Tyrannosaurus rex soul master. But the soul masters of ordinary beast martial souls from the outside world, many people absorb them to death. And Auntie, you just said that the maximum absorption period of this first soul ring is applicable to everyone. The person who says such things is also worthy of being called a master. He's clearly a scammer. Luo Erlong blinked his eyes and his anger dissipated a lot. Yu Chen spoke with substance and clarity, even if she almost blindly followed Xiaogang, she couldn't say anything to refute at this moment. But she still stubbornly said, "What do you know? 423 years is the highest age soul ring absorbed by soul masters according to clear records." Ha! Auntie, didn't you just say that this was the conclusion drawn by De Shi through research? Why has it now become a clear record in the data? Before Luo Erlong could react, Yu Chen continued. But that means the maximum absorption period is a phenomenon that only exists in one person, right? Luo Erlong. So, how can one person's situation be generalized to everyone? Auntie, in my opinion, the absorption period of soul rings should be based on each person's own conditions, including martial soul, physical fitness, and pain tolerance, as well as the source of soul rings. Specific situations should be analyzed. I believe that the person who was clearly recorded to have absorbed the first soul ring in 423 years must be a genius with excellent personal conditions. But let's make a hypothesis. If he were to use a weaker soul beast to absorb soul rings, wouldn't his lifespan be even higher? On the contrary, if he were to switch to a stronger soul beast, wouldn't he be able to reach 423 years? Luo Erlong. At this moment, Yu Chen smiled mischievously in his heart, but on the surface, he pretended to be innocent and innocent. Auntie, do you think what I said is correct? Auntie, please give me a definite answer. Luo Erlong bent down and lowered his head, his chin almost buried in the trembling heaviness, silently processing the ingredients. Yu Chen, however, was relentlessly pursuing. Auntie, are you talking? Bang! As the dragon's claws were chopped off completely, Luo Erlong finally succumbed and exclaimed angrily. I'm so annoyed. You're right, come on. Tisk, it's harder to admit that Xiaogang was wrong than to admit your own mistake. But the seeds have already been planted, it should be easier to expose Xiaogang in the future. Thinking of this, Yu Chen's mouth slightly curved and he opened his mouth to give Luo Erlong a heavy blow. Auntie, don't trust others so easily in the future. Especially that so-called De Shi sounds like a skilled scammer. Besides, you, who will trust his aunt, are simply a big fool who is not even as good as a child. Signed, double change starting today. Seeking recommendation and monthly pass, end of this chapter. Chapter 7. Martial Soul Development. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 7 Martial Soul Development. How? After Yinglong swallowed a small piece of the flesh of the Spitfire dragon, Luo Erlong immediately stared at it eagerly. At the same time, Yu Chen tightly closed his eyes and fully sensed the state of Yinglong. He found that after swallowing Yalong's chunks of meat, Yinglong seemed to have transformed into a high-speed furnace, rapidly transforming the chunks into two distinct things at a speed far beyond human digestion. One is soul power, the second is impurities. As more and more soul power is extracted, impurities continue to shrink, and there is a trend of merging with Yinglong. Upon seeing this, Yu Chen without hesitation ordered. Spit it out. At the next moment, a scattered object was spit out by Yinglong onto the ground. Hey, Xiaochen, what's going on? Luo Erlong panicked and quickly expressed concern. Yu Chen did not answer immediately, his mind still immersed in his perception of the martial soul state. In addition to the change in soul power, a faint sense of reinforcement was also transmitted to him through Yinglong. As Yinglong is still very weak, even if it is only slightly reinforced, this feeling is very obvious. Has the bloodline been strengthened? Yu Chen searched for the source of reinforcement, but found nothing. It seems that we need to try a few more times. With this thought in mind, he slowly opened his eyes. Suddenly, a delicate and beautiful face caught the eye. A faint fragrance fills the nose. "Xiao Chen, how are you?" Luo Erlong asked immediately with a hint of concern. "I'm fine, thank you aunt for your concern." "Really? Why did Yinglong vomit?" Luo Erlong felt uneasy. "That's the residue left by Yinglong's digestion after eating meat," Yu Chen explained calmly. "If you don't spit it out, you'll merge with Yinglong." Residue. Luo Erlong hesitated for a moment and then couldn't understand. How could this merge with Yinglong? After digesting something, shouldn't it be pulled out? Cough cough, should it be pulled out? "Auntie," Yu Chen sighed helplessly, "you should know that Yinglong is my martial soul after all. It is not a real animal and does not have the function of pulling. It seems right." Luo Erlong thought for a moment before realizing that he had never seen Luo Sanpao excrete before when he formed the golden iron triangle with Xiaogang and Frand and traveled the continent together. But she was still puzzled, "But doesn't it have a butt or something?" Yu Chen waved his hand and said, "Yes, it does. But it's just decoration, at least for now it's decoration. Not only Lazar, but also Luo Sanpao's farting ability is not available to Yinglong. The reason why Luo Sanpao can fart is entirely due to the influence of those two farting soul skills. To some extent, Yinglong now looks like a legendary gluttony, only entering but not leaving. I just don't know how, if I were one step late and didn't let Yinglong spit out the impurities would merge with it in what form, and how Yinglong would transform it into a part of itself." In Yu Chen's view, there are too many secrets in his martial soul. Why do other people's martial souls have independent consciousness like Luo Sanpao? What is the principle behind its unique material transformation ability? What form does Yinglong exist in after being retracted from its body, and where is its independent consciousness? If you want to study martial souls, there is no more suitable research object than Yinglong and Luo Sanpao. Yu Chen believes that as long as he thoroughly studies Yinglong, all the secrets about martial souls will have nowhere to hide from him. It's ridiculous that Xiaogang is sitting on a treasure mountain without realizing it. Does it mean to be called a theoretical master if one's own martial soul is half understood and not fully understood? When asked, he said, "The characteristics of mutated martial souls are no longer understandable by ordinary martial soul theories, as stated in the original text. Please, do you have this martial soul for decades, or can't you draw any relevant conclusions? Now, do you still need to feed Yinglong?" Luo Erlong stroked the green hair at his temples. "Hello." At this moment, Yu Chen's soul power is still 1.5. But Yinglong's existence this time has exceeded the previous maximum of 6 minutes. This is because it extracts a portion of soul power from the flesh of dragons and beasts, which can compensate for the consumption of Yu Chen. The soul power extracted from the 300-year-old dragon beast meat I ate today cannot match the consumption required to maintain the dragon. But if higher quality meat is available, can output exceed consumption? Further thinking, if I allow Yinglong to eat and extract soul power while practicing myself, can I achieve double or even more progress in cultivation? Ideals are full, reality is bony. In Douluo continent, martial souls are equivalent to the existence of spiritual roots in fairy tales. When Yu Chen placed Yinglong outside the body, although his cultivation ability did not suddenly decrease to 0, it also decreased by half. But it seems that my Tai Chi can be practiced without martial soul. Yu Chen pondered while feeding Yinglong. At the same time, Luo Erlong beside him fell into silence for a long time without making a sound. Whenever she becomes like this, there is no doubt that she must be thinking of you, Xiaogang. The fact is exactly the same. Luo Sanpao never vomits out when eating carrots. Does that mean those carrots are integrated with him? If that's the case, does Xiaogang know when Lu Erlong thought about the possibility of the fusion of radish and Luo Sanpao, he couldn't help but wonder if Luo Sanpao, who had eaten so many radishes, could still be called a mutated dragon that failed. Has it completely degraded into radish essence? Lu Erlong is not yet foolish enough. With just a slight hint, Yu Chen began to doubt whether Xiaogang's cultivation method for Luo Sanpao was completely wrong. Kuyu Xiaogang is the first person in the theory of Soul Master, how could he be wrong? When his thoughts reached this point, it seemed as if he had bumped into the southern wall, and Lu Erlong was completely unwilling to dwell on it. Returning to reality, Lu Erlong looked at Yu Chen's handsome little face, sometimes frowning and sometimes showing a gentle smile. Not long. Yu Chen's soul power reached its limit, and with a thought, he withdrew Yinglong from his body. He closed his eyes again and sensed the changes that had occurred in himself after the recovery of the martial soul. Although soul power did not increase, there was an extremely secretive fluctuation that slowly spread after recovering the Ying dragon. His heart beats faster and his physique has also strengthened. It seems that Yinglong has indeed gained considerable benefits from dragon meat. After recycling it, this benefit can also generate some feedback for me, so Yu Chen completely doesn't understand how Yu Xiaogang, who possesses such a unique martial soul, mixed up like that useless person. Just eating, the level of development for the corresponding dragon is still too low. If I could specifically create a technique that Yinglong can use, perhaps I could strengthen it without eating anything. Of course, before that, I should first combine Tai Chi with the meditation techniques of this world. End of this chapter. Chapter 8. Tai Chi Classic. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 8 Tai Chi Classic. The sun is setting in the west. The orange-yellow glow slanted through the window into the library. Beside a desk by the window, a handsome and calm boy was quietly flipping through the classics in his hand. The soft glow reflected on his cheeks, making his temperament even more refined. Wow, wow, wow! The sound of flipping pages may be slight, but it sounds very quickly. Before long, the book in the boy's hand reached the end page. I've finished reading it. Putting down the book, Yu Chen forcefully pinched his brow. In a blink of an eye, 4 months have passed. During this period, Yu Chen finished reading a full third of the books in the library of Lanba Academy. As early as awakening the memories of his past life, Yu Chen found that his memory was more than 1 point stronger than his past life. It is obvious that this is an implicit benefit for travelers. Most travelers have the characteristics of strong spiritual power and extraordinary understanding, and Yu Chen is also one of them. Thanks to this, he developed a technique that was almost quantum speed reading, absorbing a large amount of knowledge with astonishing speed reading. Among them, the classics related to meditation and various soul power techniques were given top priority by him, and he read them early and often reviewed them. Douluo so-called meditation method is not the method that enhances spiritual power in the magical world, but rather an internal skill. No, it cannot be called internal skill at all. At most it is the embryonic form of internal skill. As is well known, the level of research on soul power cultivation methods in Douluo continent is incredibly low. Tang San, who comes from the world of low martial arts, has gained the unparalleled cultivation speed of his peers with the stolen internal mental skill Xiaogang from a sect that is not particularly top-notch. The Tang sect. Even 10,000 years later, 20 or 30,000 years later, there was no soul power cultivation method that could rival Xiaogang. Putting the classics that record the thoughts of the underworld and soul power techniques as the top priority, Yu Chen hopes that he can summarize and develop a new and efficient cultivation method himself. He doesn't expect to create such a powerful cultivation technique all at once, but he is still very confident in developing a technique that can double his current cultivation speed. And his greatest source of confidence is not his superhuman intelligence, but rather Tai Chi. In Douluo continent, people must rely on martial souls to enhance their soul power. But Tai Chi can break free from martial souls, bringing him additional soul power growth. But it should be noted that the Tai Chi boxing that Yu Chen brought from his past life only had moves and no internal mental skills. Without the existence of internal mental techniques, simply performing a set of actions can enhance soul power. At the beginning, Yu Chen was very puzzled. But after nearly half a year of research, Yu Chen has realized that what brings about an increase in soul power is not the moves of Tai Chi, but the artistic power generated during boxing. Yu Chen called it the Tai Chi imagery. The Tai Chi artistic conception of using softness to overcome hardness, combining hardness and softness, the coexistence of two elements, and the transformation of yin and yang, invisibly conforms to the laws of heaven and earth, bringing him positive feedback in soul power. That is to say, the technique is not important, the artistic conception is important. In his view, if he fully controls the Tai Chi artistic conception and can achieve the ability to send and receive from the heart, then he can do nothing and his soul power can automatically increase. But this is still far from Yu Chen. Originally, the Tai Chi imagery only appeared when he was completely focused and wanted to complete the entire set of Tai Chi. If there are more or less copies, or if there are distractions in his mind, he can only do useless work. In this situation, the growth of soul power is extremely passive, with only a slight increase each time. In order to make greater use of the power of artistic conception, Yu Chen naturally wants to optimize Tai Chi. Through several months of effort, he was only able to ensure that he would inevitably have the power of artistic conception when boxing, but he still couldn't take the initiative to use it, nor did he dare to simplify or make the moves easier. To put it another way, the entire set of Tai Chi is equivalent to a high-scoring answer sheet, while Yu Chen is a plagiarist. If he copies down every word without changing it, he can get the same high score, referring to increased soul power. But if he is asked to make revisions and revisions on the answer sheet, unless he has sufficient knowledge, he will only be able to add insult to injury. Try again. Just finished reading a classic book, Yu Chen had some insights in his heart. In the spacious library, there was no one around the boy. He detached from his chair and put on a posture in the open space on the side. Wild horses with split manes, white cranes with bright wings. Leopards and tigers returning to the mountains, slanting the tail of sparrows. Over the past 6 months of countless exercises, almost every move and form of Tai Chi has been incorporated into Yu Chen's muscle instincts. Allowing her body to move on its own, Yu Chen dissipated her mind and comprehended the hidden energy. At a certain moment, the Tai Chi imagery suddenly emerged, and he immediately threw his spiritual power into it, attempting to pull the power emitted by the imagery into his own body. This time, he succeeded. The modified dark thoughts align with the power of artistic conception, but in an instant, the soul power that follows the dark thoughts becomes imbued with a special Tai Chi aura. At this moment, Yu Chen Fuji's soul has once again changed its dark thoughts and is manipulating its soul power towards a new path. The time for a stick of incense is fleeting. When the external boxing techniques and the internal meditation techniques completely match, complement each other, and advance and retreat together, the Tai Chi imagery, enveloping Yu Chen suddenly doubles in mystery. If we say that the additional soul power passively increased by relying on Tai Chi imagery is 0.1, and the soul power actively cultivated by relying on meditation is 0.2. So, in the current situation where two phases are combined, 0.1 plus 0.2 is not equal to 0.3, but equal to 0.5. Call out. Another stick of incense had passed, and Yu Chen finally stopped practicing, slowly exhaling a long breath. Feeling the increased soul power in his body, he lifted the corners of his mouth with satisfaction. 4 levels of soul power. At the beginning of awakening his past life memories, he practiced Tai Chi for 20 days and only increased his soul power by 0.25 levels. In the following month, with the help of Luo Erlong's meditation technique, he increased his soul power by 0.5 levels. If the soul power growth rate is at level 0.5 per month, 4 months later, he should be at level 3 soul power. However, soul power cultivation becomes increasingly difficult as one progresses further. The difficulty of increasing soul power at level 1 is completely different from that at level 11. So normally, Yu Chen may not reach level 3. But he is also improving his dark thoughts, and every day he allows the martial soul to devour dragon blood and meat, and the growth rate of soul power has never declined. Before today, his soul power not only had already passed level 3, but also was only one line behind level 4. Now, this line has been easily crossed by him. Finally, I have combined Tai Chi with the concept of meditation, and I can also crown the name I had planned for a long time onto this improved meditation method. The Tai Chi Heart Sutra. The combination of Tai Chi and Tai Chi Heart Classic is known as the Tai Chi Classic. During his contemplation, Yu Chen operated the Tai Chi Heart Sutra alone. Soon, the recently disappearing Tai Chi imagery enveloped him once again. But compared to the artistic conception when both martial arts and mental techniques are used together, the level of mystery in the artistic conception at this moment is far inferior, or even inferior to the artistic conception when martial arts are used alone. That is to say, there is still a lot of room for improvement in martial arts and mental skills. The road ahead is long and arduous. But at this moment, a graceful figure stepped into the library. After looking around, when she found that there were not many people in the museum, she rushed straight to Yu Chen and excitedly said as she walked. "Xiaochen, Auntie has passed level 60. She's in a good mood and will take you to Tiando City to shop and have a big meal." About Luo Erlong's soul power level, please pay attention to the timeline, which is 6 years before the start of the plot. It was about 13 years since Luo Erlong first appeared in the original work, when he was about 30.5 years old. In the original work, Qin Ming became the sole emperor at the age of 34, the second fastest recorded in the history of the martial soul hall. Although this setting was eaten later and Qin Ming almost did not find this person, Luo Erlong must not be as fast as him. When Luo Erlong first appeared, he was a soul saint in his 70s. Now becoming the sole emperor, I believe it is in line with the common sense of the Douluo world to increase the sole emperor's soul power to more than 10 levels in the next 13 years to the soul saint stage. At least the entrance and exit won't be too large, and I said it this way because the plot needs it. I hope everyone can accept it. Also, seeking recommendation, seeking monthly pass, end of this chapter. Chapter 9. Dugu Yan and Yi Lingling. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 9. Dugu Yan and Yi Lingling. Tiando City, the imperial capital of the Tiando Empire, is one of the 3 busiest cities on the whole continent, and its night market is also extremely prosperous. Light is red and wine is green, traffic is bustling, and people come and go. Especially in July and August each year, major soul master academies in the city are gradually closed, and young soul masters who stay in the academies and do not go home often appear in night markets. The reason why Lan Ba Academy has only a few people, including Yu Chen, is because it has a library that usually has a 50% occupancy rate during holidays. This is Yu Chen's first time visiting the night market in Tiando City. The bustling scene here almost made him dream of various commercial and snack streets in his past life. Eating and drinking, with a complete range of products, many vendors resort to taking money from customers. After a delicious meal in the restaurant, Yu Chen held Luo Erlong's hand and walked the streets and alleys, enthusiastically exploring. Today, not only is Luo Erlong extremely excited because his soul power has exceeded level 60, but he is also delighted that he has finally created the Tai Chi Heart Classic. In addition, for several months he has mostly stayed in the Blue Bull Academy, without hearing anything outside the window, focusing solely on cultivating soul power techniques. It's rare to come out, always have a good time. Anyway, it's all Luo Erlong who pays the bill. Wrap this one, and that one for me. In the clothing store, Luo Erlong waved his hand and bought all the summer clothes that Yu Chen had just tried. Yu Chen did not refuse, no matter how well Luo Erlong treated him, he accepted it without any embarrassment. In the past 6 months of getting along, Yu Chen clearly felt that Luo Erlong's kindness to him was no longer solely based on Yu Xiaojiang's face. They have developed a unique relationship between the two. It's natural that any pet can have feelings after being kept for the first half of the year, let alone humans. Besides, Yu Chen is not unattractive. On the contrary, as an old hand in the flower garden in his past life, he had a good way of dealing with women. That is to say, he is young now and his physical condition cannot be met. Otherwise, half a year of daily interaction would be enough for him to take down Luo Erlong. Even if Luo Erlong's heart was filled with Yu Xiaojiang, Yu Chen was confident in taking her body. As for her heart, well, having a body is enough, what kind of heart is needed? Unfortunately, all means are limited by the immaturity of physical development. Even if he can make Luo Erlong fall in love with someone else, it's impossible for her to fall in love with a little brat. Luo Erlong has a romantic mind, but not a heavy industry like Tang San's. In the original work, Tang San first met Xiao Wu, who was only 6 years old. Because Xiao Wu's leg touched his neck during their battle, he experienced special psychological fluctuations. Although Xiao Wu has lived for over 100,000 years, her mind is indeed very immature, but Tang San's psychological age is actually in his 30s, which can also cause psychological fluctuations true and difficult to evaluate. It's like a scholar in a wheelchair who likes to watch little girls stand on tiptoes and solve equations on the blackboard. In summary, in the past, Yu Chen only had normal interactions with Luo Erlong and did not exceed the boundaries of his family. Anyway, at this stage, his position in Luo Erlong's heart has surpassed that of friends and family such as Frand, second only to Yu Xiaojiang. By the way, Xiaochen, my aunt has a gift for you. Speaking, Luo Erlong took out a wrist guard, which was inlaid with 4 deep blue gemstones. This is a storage soul guide. Xiaochen, put it on your hand and let Auntie take a good look. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Yu Chen smiled shyly. He wasn't busy taking the soul guide, but instead took the hand of Luo Erlong and gestured for her to bend down. Subsequently, Bo gently pecked at Luo Erlong's face. Suddenly, Luo Erlong's face lit up with a smile, feeling that everything he had done for Yu Chen was worth it. In the past few months, she has been taught how difficult it is to get Yu Chen's kiss. At this moment, she was kissed by Yu Chen in public, which was beyond her expectations. The next moment, she excitedly hugged Yu Chen into her arms and kissed him several times in a row. But Yu Chen disdainfully wiped his face. Auntie, your behavior is really bothering me. Xiaochen, are you feeling shy? Hee, I'm sorry, Auntie is too excited. Auntie, are you always so excited because you've never been kissed by anyone else before? Luo Erlong's face was taken aback for a moment, and he didn't know what was on his mind. He sighed with disappointment. Yes, my aunt has never been kissed by anyone else. Oh, Yu Chen lightly curled the corners of his mouth. Look at Luo Erlong's sudden sense of disappointment, whether he has been kissed by his parents or not, but definitely not by Yu Xiaojiang. He blinked and said, then I will definitely kiss my aunt more in the future. As he spoke, he once again imprinted his lips on Luo Erlong's face. In Luo Erlong's view, this was a reward given to her by Yu Chen, but for Yu Chen, kissing such a beautiful woman is also a very pleasant thing. Win-win. One day, when he takes Luo Erlong's first kiss, he can say that classic line. Luo Erlong, your first kiss is not from Yu Xiaojiang, but from me, Yu Chinda. At this moment, I heard the slender and tender voice of a little girl coming from the side. Hey, Lingling, look at that guy. He's so old that he can't do without the embrace of his elders. Are you shy? Yu Chen raised his eyebrows and immediately looked in the direction where the sound came from. It's not that the girl called him shy, it's just that he heard a familiar name. Lingling. Is it the one he thinks? I saw two girls who were about the same height as him standing not far away, one with green hair and black pupils, and the other with blue hair and blue eyes. For some reason, the latter actually wore a veil on his face. They are wearing the same clothing. Looking at its style, it looks like the school uniform of a Soul Master Academy. No, it's not like it, it's just the school uniform. It can be seen that on the left chest of their clothes, the words, Tiendo Royal Junior Soul Master Academy, are embroidered with gold thread. The one who spoke earlier was the green-haired girl. At this moment, seeing Yu Chen looking towards them, the green-haired girl proudly raised her head and confidently met Yu Chen. Although she didn't speak, her expression conveyed her meaning very clearly. What are you looking at? If you look again, you'll take your eyeballs off. Yu Chen smiled slightly and didn't argue with her. Auntie, let go of me. Well, good. Luo Erlong naturally also heard the girl's words. With her fiery temper, if there is no one around, she may scold the girl directly. I am intimate with my baby, what's the matter with you, an outsider? But in front of everyone, she really can't bully the small with the big. Besides, she also needs to consider Yu Chen's feelings. Although reluctant, since Yu Chen asked her to let go, she could only follow suit. And the green-haired girl is still watching them. Yu Chen glanced at her again and suddenly made a funny face. The green-haired girl was taken aback, completely unaware that Yu Chen would do such a thing. She thought that the boy would be glared and cried by her fierce gaze. Great, boy, you caught my attention. But when she recovered from her shock, she found that Yu Chen had already pulled Luo Erlong away. At this moment, Yu Chen is inspecting the storage soul guide that Luo Erlong gave him. By exploring his spiritual power, he discovered that each sapphire embedded in the wrist guard had a cubic storage space. It can't compare to Tang San's 24 Bridges Bright Moon Night, but it's still enough for now. Thinking of this, he turned his head and looked back, with the corner of his mouth slowly rising. Sure enough, the green-haired girl followed the blue-haired girl. On the other side. Lingling, I'm so angry. He dares to make a face at me, I must teach him a lesson. Geese and geese. Yi Lingling was very familiar with Dugu Yen and had no intention of fighting against him at all. Instead, she dismantled the platform and said. Your heart was racing just now, did you take a liking to that guy? Thank you, Gorfa and Bookfriend 2023-012-6159 ed., for their generous monthly votes. End of this chapter. Chapter 10. Whale Glue. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 10 Whale Glue. It must be pointed out that Dugu Yen is a beauty controller. But he is a highly regarded beauty control. As a student of the Tiendo Royal Junior Soul Master Academy, Dugu Yen was surrounded by some aristocratic children. It must be admitted that most nobles have a dignified and handsome appearance, but those people have never received the proper treatment from Dugu Yen. Compared to those aristocratic children, although Yu Chen's appearance is high, it is not much higher. But his temperament is very eye-catching. Due to long-term practice of Tai Chi, Yu Chen recently created the Tai Chi Heart Sutra, and his body seemed to be shrouded in a mysterious veil. Extraordinary and ethereal, emerging from the dust. Luo Erlong has long been accustomed to this temperament because he spends time with Yu Chen day and night, which others do not have. In the bustling crowd, Yan Kong's Dugu Yen spotted the boy being held in the arms of his elders at a glance. Subsequently, a sense of amazement arose. Yi Lingling's words are not accurate. She didn't have a crush on Yu Chen, just a little concerned. After all, there is no such thing as love at first sight, only the intention of seeing the color. Perhaps after a while, if the two had not made contact, Dugu Yen would forget the boy who caught a glimpse in the crowd. But she has a bold personality and full of subjective initiative. Since I feel concerned, I will take the initiative to attack. Therefore, she deliberately shouted loudly and laughed at Yu Chen's behavior. In fact, this is a small trick that the little girl uses to attract the attention of others. Don't think that Dugu Yan has a controlling appearance, just think that she treats every person with high looks like this. In fact, she has a loyal temperament and a clear distinction between love and hate. In the original work, Dugu Yan can be said to be the only woman who has always disliked Tang San. From beginning to end, she only liked Yu Tianheng. However, at this point in time, she has not yet met Yu Tianheng. Let's get to the point. Dugu Yan pulled Lingling closely behind Yu Chen and Luo Erlong. The tracking of the two little girls certainly did not escape Luo Erlong's attention. But at this moment, she no longer had the depression she had experienced when Dugu Yan interrupted her intimate relationship with Yu Chen, and she didn't plan to find a place where no one would teach them a lesson. She only felt a bit amused. Having raised Yu Chen for almost half a year, Luo Erlong was inspired by a strong maternal love. Now, whenever she sees cute and beautiful human cubs, she doesn't hesitate to smile. Are you a child from the Royal Junior Soul Master Academy? Luo Erlong noticed their school uniforms and immediately looked at Yu Chen calmly. I don't know if Xiaochen wants to go to school, he said. Lan Ba Academy is an advanced Soul Master Academy, and the admission criteria are 2-ring Soul Masters with soul power above level 20. Obviously, Yu Chen is not qualified enough. The daily training and practical combat in the college are not something he can handle with his current small physique. But what the Junior Soul Master Academy teaches are basic knowledge, which Xiaochen has already mastered through self-study. Yu Chen has never concealed his strong learning ability, and Luo Erlong naturally knows very well. She once tried to teach Yu Chen, but before long, she was completely drained of theoretical knowledge in her mind. Yu Chen's insight of extrapolating from one case to another made Luo Erlong exclaim that he was the second most talented theoretical genius in the world. As for who is the number one in Luo Erlong's mind, in order to dispel bad luck, it will not be repeated here. However, Xiaochen should also get along more with peers. After returning, ask him for his own opinion. If Xiaochen wants to go to school, I will go and help him with the procedures. With such thoughts, Luo Erlong suddenly felt a pulling force in his palm. Upon regaining her senses, she discovered that she had been unconsciously taken by Yu Chen to a certain store where, due to special reasons, there were often no sellers, and it was all up to customers to consciously follow her. A bedding specialty store. Glancing at the name of the store, Luo Erlong didn't think much, just felt that Yu Chen might be tired from walking and wanted to rest here for a while. But the next moment, Yu Chen actually released her hand and walked straight into the shop. Hey, Xiaochen, what are you doing inside? Luo Erlong suddenly became anxious and quickly followed in, wanting to hold on to Yu Chen. Shoo! But only saw Yu Chen raising his index finger on his lips. Luo Erlong's face was taken aback for a moment, and he quickly calmed down. Xiaochen must have had his reason for doing this. Are you planning to hide here and give those two little girls who are tracking them a sudden scare? Yes, it must be like this. Anyway, Xiaochen couldn't have come in to buy something. As soon as the thought arrived, Luo Erlong noticed that Yu Chen had picked up a golden, translucent gum from the counter. Auntie, I want to buy this. Luo Erlong was suddenly taken aback. She doesn't know what this thing is, but there is an introduction to the gum on the counter that explains. Millennium Whale Gel. Nourishing yin and tonifying yang, strengthening qi and blood, hard as iron, enhancing persistence. It's good for both of us. This Luo Erlong immediately realized that this was a kind of aphrodisiac. A faint red glow drifted onto his face, and Luo Erlong squatted down with a brush. His soft lips pressed against Yu Chen's ear. Xiaochen. You're still too young to use this thing. Yu Chen slowly curled up the corner of his mouth and leaned it towards Luo Erlong's ear, whispering. Auntie, it's useful. Upon hearing this, Luo Erlong couldn't help but look at Yu Chen's thigh, his eyes quite confused. What does Xiaochen mean by this? Is he already mature before he is 7 years old? I have seen in ancient books that whale glue has a great nourishing effect on soul masters. It can strengthen the body, enhance the endurance of muscles, bones, and meridians. In a sense, it is a natural resource and treasure. How could such a thing happen? Lu Erlong's beautiful eyes widened. Is it really fake? Whether it's true or false, let's buy it and try it out. Yu Chen smiled. Anyway, this thing is not expensive either. It was because he saw the name, Whale Gel, on the promotional board outside the store that Yu Chen walked into this store. No matter how expensive it is, he is prepared to buy a few pieces of whale glue to try. But Yu Chen really didn't expect that this thing was not only not expensive, but also cheap. He vaguely remembers that the whale gel first appeared in the Douluo series of works during the Dugu period 10,000 years later. A piece identified as weathered millennium whale glue, priced at 6,000 gold soul coins. And at this moment, the piece that Yu Chen was holding in his hand was only selling for 100 gold soul coins. It seems that in the eyes of people at this time, whale glue only has an aphrodisiac effect. A regular aphrodisiac can be bought for a whole bottle with 10 gold soul coins, while whale gel is sold as a high-end aphrodisiac, which is why the price is so high. Not only this whale glue, but I also want to buy the remaining whale glue from this store. Good. Yu Chen's reason is so legitimate, how could Lu Erlong have any reason not to agree? Moreover, she still harbors a deep sense of guilt for misunderstanding Yu Chen just now, and she is even more willing to buy things now. In the blink of an eye, all the whale glue in the store was stored in the Soul Guide by Lu Erlong, and even a piece of eternal whale glue was included. As her gaze swept in a certain direction across from the store, she meticulously paid the listed price. A store that was said to be unmanned, but knew with her buttocks that it was impossible. Someone must have been secretly watching. At the same time. Lingling, where did you say they went? How could they suddenly disappear? Dugu Yen frowned and said somewhat dejectedly. I don't know, but do you think it's possible they might have entered that store? People in Douluo continent generally mature early. Looking at the bedding specialty store not far away, Yi Lingling, who had already gained a lot of knowledge in a certain area, gradually blushed a little. Curious and embarrassed. Dugu Yen glanced in that direction, his face also turning slightly red. She asserts. Impossible. The next moment. Yu Chen and Lu Erlong walked out of that store hand in hand. Dugu Yen Yi Lingling. End of this chapter.